Now, with me now is an old colleague and traveling companion, the former U.S. Congresswoman, former presidential candidate, Cynthia McKinney. She joined me on one of our convoys to Gaza. She's tried many times to get into Gaza. Israel has been determined to stop her.
26 minutes after the hour, continuing our breaking news coverage of the crisis in the Middle East. And earlier this morning, we told you about a 66-foot pleasure boat, the Dignity, which had been trying to deliver medical supplies, urgently needed medical supplies, to Gaza City. That boat, while, according to our CNN reporter Carl Penhall, who was on it at the time, was in international waters, was rammed by an Israeli patrol boat. And there you see the boat itself had to make way back to Tyre in Lebanon as it was taking on water. Also on board that craft was former Georgia Congresswoman, former presidential candidate Cynthia McKinney, and she joins us now via the internet from Tyre in Lebanon. And Congresswoman McKinney, can you tell us what happened? We had our Carl Penhall saying that you were in international waters, clearly in international waters, when accosted by and confronted by these Israeli patrol boats.
Well, I wouldn't call it accosting. I would call it ramming. Let's just call it as it is. Our boat was rammed 3 times, twice in the front and 1 on the side. But let me also state for the record that what we experienced earlier today pales in comparison to what the people of Gaza are experiencing right now as we do this interview.
We have been watching former Georgia Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney because she's traveling in the Muslim world saying awful things about her own country.
The fact of the matter is that the American people, by a vast majority, agree with me that we need to bring our war dollars home. The first question is, if you have anything to say to President Obama, what would it be?
عندكم أي حاجة بتقولوها للرئيس أوباما؟
امتحانات. ما فيش امتحانات. الأول قصفونا وإحنا في لحظة امتحان كنا قصفونا.
She said that they have a hard time to make a final examination, but they are trying to just finish this final examination. So they working under fire.
كانت أضرار مادية في تلك اللحظة وبعدين عقبت أضرار نفسية. طبعا ما عادش يقدروا يتجاوزوا.
First it was physical just damaging, and now this started to be psycho damaging.
صارت انهيارات عصبية لبعض الفتيات.
Collapse for civilians, especially for girls,
حالة الفزع.
Terrifying,
تعال ما ذكرتك فيه.
عندك سؤال؟ He has a question for you.
Yes.
نبي نعرف وين حماية المدنيين مش في قرار في 1970 73.
He asked about what to protect civilians. What is this?
حماية المدنيين.
This to protect civilians like this.
When
and they are civilians, they are not military.
Yes.
هذا إرهاب قتل.
So my second question would follow on your question, and that is, what do you think of the NATO explanation for why they are doing this, that this is humanitarian intervention? Is NATO telling the truth or not?
بتقول لك هل الناتو اللي هو حلف الأطلس بيقول الحقيقة ولا لا؟
لا.
The people who's living near the Bab al-Aziziyah, which our leader office, and they are attacked Bab al-Aziziyah. But you know something in military, I don't know, I'm not sure, it's called deviation. When missile comes, there's some deviation, maybe 20 or 30 meters. That's why his home have been attacked. They don't take care of deviation, because Bab al-Aziziyah, you will see tonight, Bab al-Aziziyah is surrounded by people, a lot of houses. His houses have been attacked. انت شو استفدت عليه؟
انا نتمشى انا وجماعه نتمشى في الرياضه الليليه.
He makes some exercise at night with his friends. He eat potato. You know the sweet potato. You guys traditional they eat at night. Even he do exercise but he eat potato at same time.
ونحكي في حديث نتبادلوا في الحديث.
The conversation with my friend.
بعدين فجأة يصير قصف. تشبه الدنيا تطير
باب العزيزية
كأن في فضاء باب العزيزية الصور كأن في فضاء كوني.
Suddenly they have an explosion. He said like sun.
Yes.
Okay.
الجماعة اللي معاي كل واحد شاف مكان. في اللي استشهد في اللي انضرب جاته ضربه.
The friend what he was working with, one is died, and one is injury in the abdomen,
قصت ايده.
one is amputated hand.
You were the only person in Congress to hold hearings that questioned the official cover story of the 9/11 attacks.
What I did, and basically with respect to the facts around September 11th, I held probably the first, the only open congressional briefing that included former CIA whistleblowers, former FBI whistleblowers, family members, academicians, legal scholars, experts of various sort to discuss their experiences, their research on what we now know as various aspects of September 11th, from the unanswered questions of the family members themselves to the finance track, or the finance trail, the money trail. Various issues were explored. We had, for example, Peter Dale Scott there, David Ray Griffin, Nafis Ahmed, who lives here in London. And of course we had Ray McGovern, we had the Jersey Girls, we had everyone who has a reputation of seriousness about the unanswered questions of September 11th. They were there, they participated.
Mr. Secretary, according to the Comptroller General of the United States, there are serious financial management problems at the Pentagon, to which Mr. Cooper alluded. Fiscal year 1999, 2.3 trillion missing. Fiscal year 2000, 1.1 trillion missing. And DOD is the number one reason why the government can't balance its checkbook. The Pentagon has claimed year after year that the reason it can't account for the money is because its computers don't communicate with each other. My second question, Mr. Secretary, is who has the contracts today to make those systems communicate with each other? How long have they had those contracts? And how much have the taxpayers paid for them? Finally, Mr. Secretary, after the last hearing, I thought that my office was promised a written response to my question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th. I have not yet received that response, but would like for you to respond to the questions that I've put to you today, and then I do expect the written response to my previous question, hopefully by the end of the week.
I've forgotten what the second question was.
I think Ms. Jonas knows it.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. I appreciate the question. I appreciate your interest in our department's financial condition, and we are working very hard on that program. I've just come back recently.
I understand that you're working hard on it, but my question was, who has the contract? How long have they had that contract, and how much money have we spent on it?
In general, we spend about $20 billion in the Department on Information Technology Systems. The accounting systems are part of that. I can get you the exact number for the record of what we spend on our current, what we call legacy systems, and those that we're moving toward.
And who has the contracts?
That would be a multitude of individuals.
Could you name some, please?
Well, I think off the top of my head, well, I would rather not. I'd rather provide that for the record.
That's not privileged information, is it?
I'm sure it's not.
Well, please. And we still have time, so please.
I would be glad to provide for the record. I don't want to talk from the top of my head and be incorrect.